What's up, everyone? Welcome to the first episode of the official Greater Human Performance podcast. I am your host, Rodrigo Monzo. I am a registered dietitian, and the main purpose of this podcast is to provide you with quality and effective information to help you reach your health and performance goals. Now, because this is the first episode of the podcast, I wanted to obviously introduce myself, introduce the podcast and the purpose of the podcast, but also give you all more insight specifically on what a registered dietitian is and how that compares to a nutritionist. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So to start off with, you've probably heard the term registered dietitian, but it's very likely that you've heard the term nutritionist. And the reason why you hear the term nutritionist more often than registered dietitian is because it's a lot easier to be a nutritionist. And most people associate food and nutrition pretty much concurrently, right? Because nutrition is food, food is nutrition. So why is it that you don't hear about the term registered dietitian? Well, it's honestly because most people don't want to associate food or nutrition with diet, because when you think about dieting, you think about starving yourself, starvation diets, restricting foods, losing weight, basically things that we don't want to think about as it pertains to food and nutrition, which is very unfortunate because a registered dietitian ideally, or in theory, is actually available or there to provide individuals with quality and effective nutrition information, resources, and guidance to help them improve their health and performance. So, getting on the topic, or into the weeds of the topic, if you will, right? What is the difference between a registered dietitian and a nutritionist? Well, the main thing is going to be the level and depth of education and experience that a registered dietitian has compared to a nutritionist. So we'll start off with a nutritionist. How do you become a nutritionist? Well, if you do it the most common way, you simply go out and do some type of physique or fitness challenge, and you find some success, and you call yourself a nutritionist. Now, if you want to take it a step further, you can go get certified, right, by a specific body or organization, like your ISSA, like your NASM, and there's so many off the top of my head, I can't really think of any other than those two, right? And you complete the course. Typically, you're looking at either a weekend course, you're looking at a few weeks, a few modules, but basically, you take the course, you pass it, and now you are a nutritionist. So that's pretty much the depth of a nutritionist. Now, most of those certifications or courses are going to have some foundational information, which is obviously appropriate. But how does that compare to a registered dietitian? So, number one, you have to complete your bachelor's degree, which is obviously going to be a minimum of 4 years of education. So, going through the general education and the specific courses that are required under the dietetic or didactic program. Number two, you have to apply and get accepted and complete a dietetic internship. And the dietetic internship you can kind of think of as your professional supervised training as a future nutrition professional. And most programs are going to be anywhere between 6 and 12 months in length. It's just going to depend on which program you obviously go with and the amount of information that they are providing within the time frame. And so the dietetic internship is going to be a minimum of 1,000 hours of supervision, of course, as I stated. And so once you complete your internship, you can then sit down, take the exam, right? And obviously pass the exam in order to get your credential. So that alone is a multitude amount of education in comparison to the nutritionist, right? So your bachelor's degree, your internship, and then you can sit down for the exam. Now, today is October, I think, 14th, 15th? Honestly, I can remember. But as of 2024, if I'm not mistaken, you will be required to have a master's degree in order to be able to qualify to sit down for the RD exam. So in a few weeks, about 10 or 12, the requirement is going to increase. So you will need your bachelor's, you will need your master's, the internship, and then you can sit down for the exam. Now, if you're considering becoming a registered dietitian, I would highly recommend you look at schools that are combining the master's degree with the internship. A lot of them offer them. Previously, they didn't because it wasn't a requirement. However, I do believe that more schools will be offering this option starting 2024, right? So you'll be able to knock out 2 requirements in one go, if you will. 2 birds in 1 stone. I didn't really want to use that analogy, but here we are, right? So once you've completed all of those requirements and you are now officially a registered dietitian, you still have to continue education. Every 5 years, you're required a specific number of units of continuing education in order to maintain your credential. Because let's face it, if I take a certification course in 2020 and I'm no longer required or mandated to continue my education, am I really going to do it? Probably not. If I really don't care about it. But as a registered dietitian, you are essentially choosing to be the premier state licensed accredited nutrition professional. So it goes without saying that we need to make sure that you're continuing education in order to stay up to date with the new evidence that's honestly it's every year something new is coming up, right? So that's another thing to consider, right? Where your education, your knowledge must continue as you continue as a professional. So very straightforward. So as you can see, there are some significant differences between a registered dietitian and a nutritionist. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end the episode on that note because, again, I wanted to make sure that we provided a proper introduction before we get into some very interesting topics. And believe me when I say that I have a lot, because I do. But anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, if you liked it, if you're excited, obviously, for future content, please make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And of course, share this video with anyone and everyone that you believe would benefit from the information that we are going to discuss here. So again, thank you all so much, and I will see you in the next episode.